The point in the show where we will talk about the news. So if you want to call in and offer commentary on anything in the news, we are inviting you to do that. The number is 622-9622. And so let's start. Let's see. Do I have any weather news first? Let me start with something weather. A major storm, likely the strongest in at least 6 years, is poised to bring drenching rain, heavy mountain snow, and howling winds to Southern California today and tomorrow. Floods, mudslides, rock slides, travel delays, and power outages are all possible. While Northern California will miss out on the brunt of the storm, another is lined up to hit that part of the state late Sunday. That could aggravate the situation along the dam of Oroville and other reservoirs that are filled to capacity. Oh my gosh, those people are still not out of the woods.
It's horrible.
On that one.
Absolutely horrible.
Can you believe they're probably praying for another drought?
Yeah.
Wow. Matt Damon's new film, The Great Wall, opens today amid critics calling it a blatant white savior narrative. Really? The action-adventure movie centered around a 12th century European mercenary tasked with helping Chinese warriors fight off supernatural creatures is projected to make upward of $20 million this weekend, despite huge success in markets such as China, where it has amassed more than $170 million.
Wow.
Experts point to Hollywood's inability to develop bankable, diverse stars in foreign markets as part of the problem. Poor Matt Damon. Gets picked on all the time.
I know, but he's a good guy.
Donald Trump did a 90-minute news, what do you call that, news gathering? Conference, thank you, yesterday. The public doesn't believe you people anymore, he said to the press in the room. Here's what it actually says in the article. Aggrieved and spoiling for a fight. Who wrote this? I want to share something with you, by the way, about
Yeah.
I mean, he's making some really interesting comments that ring true for anybody who puts the news together and struggles with slanted news. Mm-hmm. I struggle with it every morning.
Yeah.
Every morning. And it's not just national news. I struggle with local news that is slanted. Mm-hmm. I mean, the car crash stories, they don't get slanted, usually. I can't think of an example. But a political story will get slanted almost all the time. Mm-hmm. Aggrieved and spoiling for a fight. That's how this story starts. Donald Trump used a marathon encounter with reporters yesterday to denounce the criminal leaks that took down his top national security advisor and revived questions about his own ties to Russia. But he offered only a lawyerly denial that his campaign aides had been in touch with Russian officials before last fall's election. Nobody that I know, he said in the first full-length news conference of his presidency, 77 minutes. The 77-minute event amounted to a freewheeling airing of complaints with the new president attempting to find his footing after the rockiest launch in recent memory. Whatever. See, okay, so let's talk about this for a second here. What I'm about to tell you is my thoughts on slanted news. This has nothing to do with whether I agree with Donald Trump or not, or I agree with any president or not. If you've listened to me and paid attention to me, in my opinion of the president or any elected official, I've always talked about one issue at a time. That's why people who didn't like Obama hated when I supported things he said. Mm-hmm. That's why people who love Trump hate when I pick on things that he said that don't resonate well with me. I pretty much support the president, period, whether it's Trump or Obama or Bush or whoever it may be. But there are certain things that they've all done that have rattled my cage a little bit. Okay, that being said, the press does slant the news. I just as an example, before we went on the air, I was telling Robin about this and how I deal with this every single day. And I want to share with you, I'm going to read verbatim. I had to find a short one, otherwise it would be too much. Now, this is from the Florida News Network. Now, you would think and I use the Florida News Network all the time. I know some people who actually work there. or I used to. I haven't heard their voices on there in a while. But I did. And I knew them when they were the Florida Radio Network.
Uh-huh.
They had to change their name because it became more than radio. They do TV, they do internet, etc.
Right.
Which that's just shop talk right there. But anyway,
It's history.
they are. They do slant their news. They clearly slant their news to the left. Now, I want to read you the story, the abortion story. Okay, I'm going to read it verbatim, and then I'm going to tell you what I did in my news to balance it out as best I could. It says this: a major win for reproductive rights. Okay, that's the opening line. A major win for reproductive rights. The Florida Supreme Court says a state law imposing a 24-hour waiting period for abortions cannot take effect while it's being challenged in court. Nancy Abudu with the ACLU of Florida says that delay would have kept some women from exercising a fundamental right. She said, quote, "You would have the waiting period being much more than 24 hours. In some instances, you would have women whose health was in danger being directly impacted by this delay." The Florida legislature approved the mandatory delay law almost 2 years ago, but it never took effect because of the legal challenge. Now it goes back to the trial court, and it could be a few more years before the issue is resolved. That's the whole story. If you don't see the slant, let's back up a little bit. There's nothing in this story to indicate what those people who wanted the 24-hour waiting period wanted, or why they wanted it, okay?
Yeah.
So on my version of that story, I added this line. I just had it. What did I do with it? I added this line. I put, those in favor of the waiting period said it gave counselors a chance to speak with the pregnant women and perhaps prevent them from aborting their child and then living with that guilt for the rest of their lives. I didn't slant the story. I added a piece of that story because we've been covering this story for 2 decades.
Yeah, long time.
Not the 24-hour waiting period story, but I mean the abortion story.
Yeah.
That's what the 24 hours was for. The 24 hours was so that a woman who goes for an abortion is told, all right, you're going to have to wait 24 hours. Here's some people who want to talk to you. And they were people on both sides, those who would talk to them about abortion who were okay with it, and those of them who would talk to them about abortion who would rather they didn't have one without putting any pressure. But basically saying, look, there were women doing this, women counselors who regretted having an abortion earlier in their lives, and they were willing to sit in for those in that 24-hour period and somehow meet up with these young women and say, look, you do what you want to do, but this is what I did, and I want to tell you that I'm living with this guilt my whole life. We had ladies in this, I don't think they were in the studio, on the phone, on the air. Remember this?
I do remember.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
All right. So by them writing the story and not including that part of the story, they have clearly slanted it.
Yeah.
That's my biggest point. But let me go back. Let me go back to the story. It says here, she says, in some instances, you would have women whose health was in danger being directly impacted by this delay. If your health is in danger, you go to the hospital.
Exactly.
If you are going to lose your life and an abortion will save your life, the doctors will perform the abortion.
Yeah.
That 24-hour period had nothing to do with that.
Exactly.
That 24 period, oh my gosh. So that's what I mean. And I'm not here to argue abortion right now.
No.
I'm here in this moment not to support Trump or to whatever, not to put any candidate, but to show you that the accusation, just give me a minute, the accusation that the media slants things and therefore lies about things, because a lie is not only an untruth, a lie is also leaving out part of the truth. Correct?
Exactly.
Right?
Leave it out. Sure. That's
Did you go to the store and spend all my money? No, Mom, I didn't. Did you go to the store at all? Yes. But I only spent 80% of your money.
Yeah, right.
See, I mean, leaving out part of it, that was a dopey example. But anyway.
Well, it's a good example.
Okay. Anybody want to argue with me? or agree with me, you're okay with arguing. I'm okay with disagreement. My whole point is to make the point that Trump's accusation that the media lies is not inaccurate 100% of the time, and slanting the news is an epidemic.
Yes.
Journalists from our generation, Robin, and I'm not picking on younger people, and I'm picking on the educators who taught them. The journalist schools who taught the journalists of today how to write showed them how to be very clever with adjectives, how to be very clever with omissions, and how to create stories that clearly manipulated the reader to believing something rather than knowing the whole story. That's what I see every single day. Every single day.
Yeah. And you have a lot of sources that you go to. It's not just one.
Every single day, Robin.
Everybody.
And when we read the news during News Bites, we don't cut any of that out. You can hear it. Only when I write the news that you hear on my little news brief and the other things I do, I try to make it balanced. So before we go to the commercials, let's take a call. And it's okay if you disagree. I just wanted you to know how I felt about that. Good morning. You're on the air. Are you there? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the news media also does that with gun control stories. God, I even saw a picture that it showed the reporters' utter ignorance about weapons, and I'm nobody's expert, but they showed an M1 carbine with a clip from an M1 Garand next to it, and with the caption "Dangerous semi-automatic weapon." That weapon, as illustrated, couldn't possibly have fired.
Oh, really? See, I don't know.
Wow.
You just, yeah. I don't know weapons at all, but I understand what you're saying.
No, I mean, I know very little, but I knew they were showing ammunition that wouldn't fit in the weapon.
Wow.
All right.
And the regular person wouldn't know that, and they would want to
and that's
go the way they want.
So in that case, they're using photojournalism. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jim.
All right. Have a good day.
We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On Friday, partly to mostly sunny. Beautiful day, high 73 to 77. Increasing clouds Friday night, lows ranging from the mid-40s in the interior to mid-50s along the coast. Saturday, mostly cloudy, breezy, and warm with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm around in the afternoon. The high 76 in the north to 83 in the south and along the coast. Sunday, morning cloud and a shower or thunderstorm, then some sun, high 76 to 80. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
Gene Powell Pasture Mowing. Gene and Debbie would like to thank you for another successful year of business. We want to wish everybody a safe, healthy, and prosperous 2017. We are ready to be of service with our pasture mowing. 352-629-2440. Locally owned and operated. Experienced and reliable. Commercial and residential. Licensed and insured. Powell Gene, Gene at yahoo.com. 352-629-2440. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing. 352-629-2440. Proud United States veteran.
Right to remember.
Live on stage, experience the magic that is the Fantastics. February 2nd through February 26th only, Ocala Civic Theater brings you this timeless tale of two starry-eyed lovers separated by a wall and their fathers. Call 352-236-2274. That's 236-2274. Or go to OcalaCivicTheater.com for tickets to what critics call the perfect musical. The Fantastics at the Ocala Civic Theater.
Leprechaun Soft Wash is the roof washing method that is safe and effective on shingles, tile, metal and shake roofs, vinyl, wood, aluminum, hardy board and stucco siding, driveways, pavers, and the list goes on. Leprechaun Soft Wash is fully insured and uses biodegradable cleaning products. Plus, Leprechaun Soft Wash offers a spot-free warranty on roof cleanings. Call 751-2325.
No more blimey roof stains with Leprechaun Soft Wash. 751-2325.
Radio gets results.
Yeah, I love WOCA because they're fun to listen to. Larry and Robin start the day fresh, and they're funny, they're informative. They've also helped us with Therapeutic Riding Association, getting us players for our golf tournament fundraisers, and so they help the kids that are handicapped, make our community a better place to live, and they've been a very good partner for us. Wouldn't want to have it any other way.
Radio gets results.
Mr. Webster defines a caterer as someone who provides food and refreshment. Whether you are looking to provide an excellent meal and refreshment for a small group, party, business meeting, or a large get-together, Honey Baked Ham, 2709 Southwest 27th Avenue in Ocala, will provide the delicious breakfast, lunch, or dinner items of your choice. No need for you to fret over the details. Let Honey Baked Ham handle it all. Call Honey Baked Ham today at 352-861-0011. That's 861-0011.
10 minutes before 8 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. All right, let's do another subject. You're welcome to call in about the subject I started with, but there are more things in the news. The number is 622-9622. There was one Ocala story, by the way, or it started in Ocala. Back in 2011, the state legislature for the state of Florida adopted the Firearms Owners Privacy Act after an Ocala couple complained that a doctor asked them about guns. They refused to answer. The doctor refused to see them. He wanted to know, do you have guns? And they didn't answer, so he said, okay.
Oh, my gosh.
So that was 6 years ago already. So that law that restricted doctors from asking patients about firearm ownership was determined to violate a doctor's constitutional right to free speech, according to a federal appeals court ruling that was issued yesterday. The opinion striking down key provisions of the law was the latest ruling in a legal challenge. I agree with that. I mean, telling a doctor he can't ask whether you own a gun or not, why would you? Why would that be a problem for anybody?
Yeah.
If a doctor says, do you own a gun? Why should that be illegal? So I agree with the new ruling.
Yeah. It shouldn't be illegal, but I don't know doctors unless you're like a psychologist or something and you're afraid your patient is going to hurt themselves. I mean, that has nothing to do with if you're coming there for a kidney infection or whatever it is. It's got nothing to do with it.
Maybe so. And you have a right to that opinion. But we're talking about the law. Mm-hmm. There should not be a law that prohibits you from saying something to your patient. A doctor is, we presume, a smart person.
That's right.
And therefore has a reason to ask whether you agree with the reason or not. That's your opinion. Mm-hmm. But I don't think in this country we should be stopping anybody from saying what they have on their mind, including the president, including the press.
Yeah.
It's just that those people who see something wrong with what's being done need to express that opinion. Therefore, you have a right to do that as well. Mm-hmm. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, I'll tell you what the fear of the gun-toting public is. This was primarily something that pediatricians were doing at some point during the child's examination. The doctor would say, well. The American Academy of Pediatricians classified guns as a public health hazard, and so they get with the child, and they wanted to know if mommy or daddy had a gun. Now, what was the pediatrician doing with that information? There is something called doctor-patient confidentiality. That means the doctor isn't allowed to share that information with anybody else. But was the doctor going to the police?
Okay, it's a different topic, though. Let me tell you my spin on this, my thought on this. Do you agree that you have a right in this country to own a firearm? Isn't that guaranteed in the Constitution?
Yes.
Okay. Do you also agree that the Constitution guarantees the right to free speech?
Yes.
So if we take either one of them away, we're violating the Constitution.
Now, my question is the law enforcement community piercing the veil of confidentiality between the pediatrician and the child to establish whose parents own a gun?
Well, that's something we would have an issue with. I don't disagree with what what the implication is.
There were cases of that, and that's why it became an issue.
Okay, but to create a law that prohibits the doctor from asking the question is a violation of the Constitution.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right.
It is also a violation of the Constitution for the doctor to then use that information, disclose that information to any other third party once he has it.
Which part of the Constitution stops that?
Doctor-patient confidentiality.
Which Constitution is that in? The Florida Constitution?
Well, no, it's the Florida Constitution.
Okay. Well, I'm in favor of patient doctor confidentiality. I understand what you're saying about the.
I don't. But I'm in a situation where the law enforcement people have the ability to pierce the veil of doctor-patient confidentiality.
So then
to obtain information about whether a parent owns a gun or not.
So then the intent of the Firearm Owners Privacy Act of 2011, the intent of that was aimed in the wrong direction. They should not have aimed it at the free speech of the doctor. They should have aimed it at the very issue you're pointing out, which is the issue of sharing information that you shouldn't be sharing.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
We should be in office. Why are we in office? You see?
Exactly.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. I mean, if you think about it, now that conversation we just had right there should have taken place on the legislative floor in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Right? That conversation we had right there, that would have made every other legislator, because they've all got to vote, make a decision about whatever. But I see, I don't disagree with what the implication of what Jim was saying, but I don't think taking the right of free speech away from the doctor would have been the answer. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Jim absolutely astonishes me. Because I'm in healthcare, I remember this case. I know who the doctor is, and I remember everything about it. But my question to Jim, because he's up on all this kind of stuff, when he says patient-doctor confidentiality, does that only include the actual health questions? If a doctor is treating somebody for a urinary tract infection, okay, I understand not sharing any of that. But in the course of just talking, the doctor discovers that they are going to rob a bank. That has nothing to do with their health. Can he, in fact, turn them over to the police because it has nothing to do with their health?
I love that.
It's not. I'm just asking. It's not a psychiatrist. It's not a I'm bearing my soul. Please, Father, forgive me because I'm about to sin. I don't know about that, but it was in fact a pediatrician that was asking the question to the parents. I remember that.
I remember it well. Yeah, we were doing the news back then too. I remember it, but I'm pointing out, and your question raises a good point. The point is, what about other things? I mean, what if the doctor confidentiality shows he's a gynecologist shows, oh my gosh, have you been raped? Yeah, but don't tell anybody. Mm-hmm. Well, holy cow! I mean, shouldn't he tell somebody?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right, well, if the rape affects their health, perhaps not. But a bank robbery has nothing to do with their health.
That's a
unless
better
they're
point.
mentally ill.
That's a better point. Yeah. Well,
I don't know, and it's saying doctor-patient confidentiality is similar, in my mind, to throwing out the phrase separation of church and state. I want to know exactly where that comes from and what does that say, so that we think that there is a separation of church and state. What does patient-doctor confidentiality cover? I don't know. And your question, Larry, I thought was well done, because I don't know the answer to it either. Where does it say patient-doctor confidentiality? Is it part of any constitution, actually, anywhere?
Well, I
don't know.
I know it's not in the U.S. Constitution, and I'm not that familiar with the Florida Constitution. That's why I asked, and he said it was. I'm just taking his word for it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, Jim is smarter than I am, so I don't know. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jen. And just to wrap it up, I think the whole point here is that the Firearm Owners Privacy Act of 2011, when that happened here in Ocala, there was a good reason to make that happen, but I think they took aim at the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. I think they took aim at the doctor's right to say what he had to say, and that made it unconstitutional.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. The Senate expected to confirm another President Trump cabinet pick today, despite an all-night effort by Democrats opposing Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt to head the EPA. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren.
We cannot put someone so opposed to the goals of the EPA in charge of that very agency.
Pruitt's refused to release email exchanges with oil and gas executives, but Republican Senator Jim Inhofe says he has the right experience.
He's been there. He's been Attorney General from Oklahoma, my state. He lives in my hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I know him quite well.
Demonstrations, meanwhile, in several cities to protest the president's travel ban on what they called a day without immigrants, this man in the nation's capital.
We want to make our voices heard.
With courts putting the ban on hold, the president vows to have a revised plan next week. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPA.